G'day world, you're listening to Cameron Riley on the podcast network. As regular listeners and readers of the blog will know, over the last couple of years we've been covering some stories about Gloria Jean's Coffee, the large Starbucks-like franchise that's international but has a large presence in Australia. In fact, the international operations are run from Australia, are owned by the Australian business, Jira is the name of the parent company, and particularly their relationship with the Hillsong Church, a very scary Christian fundamentalist church run by a couple of Americans, Brian Houston and his wife in Australia, and also their relationship via Hillsong with a very scary organisation called Mercy Ministries, which again has come out of the US but now has a fairly large presence in Australia. There's been a lot of press coverage of the relationship between Gloria Jean's Hillsong and Mercy Ministries in the Australian media and on this show over the course of the last couple of years. And, you know, we're gradually scraping away the paint off of their public image to expose some of the dark underbelly of these organisations and some of the very, very scary stuff that's going on. On the show today, I'm very pleased to have a guest all the way from the United States. Now, she goes by the name of Victoria Lucas, Vicky Lucas. Welcome to the show, Vicky.
Oh, thank you.
And now, Vicky, your story is that you went through Mercy Ministries in the US. You're a Mercy survivor, is that right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Why don't you give us a quick introduction to your story?
Okay. I was a resident about 8 years ago. I did not graduate. I was there 7 months, and I decided to leave because of some things that were going on, and I just couldn't sort of turn a blind eye anymore. So I wanted to do something about it, but there wasn't really anybody out there. So once I saw that the Australian girls had spoken out, then I got in touch with them. So
when you say you were there for 7 months, is that like is it like somewhere that you go and live?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you're like a resident inside this place. So tell us how you ended up inside of Mercy in the first place.
Okay. I just got out of my second treatment facility for an inpatient facility for bulimia, and basically that's what brought me there. They dealt with other issues like depression, but that wasn't why I was in there.
But how did you end up at Mercy because of your bulimia? I mean, what was the introduction that you had to Mercy?
I had a friend that had gone there, and she was a graduate, and she recommended it. And I decided to go because it was a long-term Christian facility, and I was Christian, but I was Baptist. So, you know, a little bit on the conservative side. My counselor in the secular treatment facility that I had been, which was a medical facility, actually was pursuing a job there. Okay. So I got in after 3 days, within 3 days of my application, because I think because they offered her that job. I'm glad that she didn't actually take it, but because she was actually a legitimate, counselor. But that's how I ended up there and got there very quickly.
And what was your intro? Like when you first started there, what was the first thing that they did? Did you get? Is there like an initiation process that you go through when you enter?
Well, the first thing you do is they give you the resident handbook, and then within the week we met our counselor, which supposedly they prayed about it, and we got, one of like 6 or 7 counselors to see on a weekly basis. They weren't specialized in, say, eating disorders or any of the other issues like abuse, sexual abuse, or, lesbianism, as they called it. So it was a generalized counselor. Yeah. Generalized counselors. And I think there were 3 or 4 other girls that were already seeing her. So
what professional qualifications did your counselor have? Did you ask?
If I remember correctly, I think she did not even have a bachelor's degree.
So
I don't know if we got equivalent of that. So
she was a professional qualified therapist, or just?
Oh no, I don't even think she had like a regular bachelor's degree. Like for example, I have a bachelor's degree in English literature, so I don't even think she had. That's after you get done with high school, that's what you go on to. I don't think that she even had one. I think she had work experience in social work, but I don't think she was qualified in.
Right. So she was more of a social worker than a professional counselor. And what was your experience then in working with her? I mean, we've heard some horrifying stories come out in Australia from girls that have been through Mercy about being locked in rooms and being deprived of food and water. What was your experience like?
Well, we weren't deprived of anything. I think I'm a little different from a little different perspective. I feel that they were negligent in that they offered all these things, but they didn't give me any guidance. They took away, when I got there, the first thing they did was take away my nutrition information that my previous treatment had given me so that I could have help with my meal plan. They wouldn't give me a structured meal plan. They didn't supervise what I was eating. They were really negligent when it came to eating disorder treatment. And what we were presented with was a binder of photocopied material with the treatment model called Restoring the Foundation, which we called RTF. And it went through various steps, and the first one was called Sins of the Fathers. So the first day, we went through an hour-long counseling session and wrote down every possible thing I could possibly think was an issue, such as depression, anxiety, and chemical dependency, which if you had even recreationally used alcohol or cigarettes, you were required to participate in their chemical dependency program.
Mm-hmm. And what was their perspective on the bulimia? Did they recognize that as a clinical disorder, or did they see it as sort of an offshoot of some underlying spiritual problem?
Well, at that point, we didn't talk about the demonic oppression. We just talked about, we wrote down eating disorder, and then we prayed to cast sort of that curse, to break that curse based on a couple of scriptures. We prayed to break that curse in our family line or whatever. It was more of a general sort of thing that if you had a problem, you must have inherited it because of some door that your relatives had opened to this kind of curse from God.
So they considered an eating disorder to be a curse from God that had been passed down through your family tree.
Yes, but it was very, justified. I don't think I really understood to that point. It was based on scripture, and I thought, okay, I can see, possibly we're going to pray about this, and that'll, because alcoholics often will have parents who are alcoholics. And so at that point, it sort of made sense. And they didn't speak about the demonic oppression, which eventually they would have, told us this is a demonic thing that has to be cast from your body.